So where are we up to? Well, we've introduced the idea of physicalism, the idea that minds are made of the same sorts of stuff as bodies. And we've looked at two different ways in which the physicalist doctrine could be spelled out. We've looked at the identity theory that says psychological states are reducible and identical with particular physical states. And we've looked at functionalism, which takes a step back and says, no, what we should do is think about what psychological states do. And it's all right for psychological states to have different physical realizers. So it's all right that in an octopus, pain is a particular octopus brain state, in humans it's a particular brain state, and in aliens it's a very different brain state. What allows us to say that all three things are in pain is the fact that they're behaving in a very similar way. The psychological state of pain is causing them to engage in aversion behaviour when they see something hot that would cause them bodily damage. It's causing them to engage in particular verbal behaviours like ow, and it's causing them to have particular inner sensations of pain. We're now in a position to come back to a question I introduced at the start, and that's the question of why philosophers and psychologists like to use the metaphor of a computer to think about the human mind. Because when we think about computers, it doesn't really matter what a computer is made of, provided that it processes data and inputs and outputs in a reliable way. So a computer could be made out of metal, a computer could even be made out of wood. What makes it a computer is what it does, that you can give it certain inputs and it will spit out particular outputs. So we have this level of abstraction here, that we're saying that an information processing machine is what it is, in virtue of how it processes of information, not by what it's made of. And that's what we're saying about human brains. We're saying that in order to have a mind, you have to have psychological states which are functionally complex. You have to have lots and lots of different of these psychological states that function in particularly complex ways in order to have a mind. So does a sea sponge have a mind? Well, probably not, because sea sponges aren't particularly complex in their interactions with the world. They take in water and they spit out water. Take in water, take some nutrients, spit out the water. Yes, there's a functional analysis of what a sea sponge does, but it's a very basic functional analysis. Take a human, for example, and the types of functions that their psychological states have will be very different depending on the environment that they're in. I could smell chocolate and that could cause me to really want some chocolate because I'm hungry. So if I'm already in a psychological state of hunger and I smell some chocolate, that's going to cause me to go into the new psychological state of wanting some chocolate. But if I'm really full, I've just had a huge dinner and I smell some chocolate, then smelling the chocolate won't necessarily cause me to desire chocolate. It will function in a different role. It will function to make me think, oh, I can't eat another thing, please take that smell away from me. So functionalism is about abstracting away from what psychological states are made from and looking at what they do. And functionalism answers the question of what it is to have a mind by saying that what it is to have a mind is to have a certain level of functional complexity, to have a certain level of psychological states that function in very complex ways dependent on perceptions of the environment. And the more complex, once we've reached the level of complexity of a human, then we have a mind. So what is the level of complexity that one needs to have a mind? That's the question that we'll turn to next.